Prince William sat in his private study at Kensington Palace, reviewing the morning's security briefings. The autumn rain tapped gently against the tall windows as he sipped his tea. Everything seemed normal until his personal security advisor, James Morrison, knocked urgently on the door. "Your Highness, we need to talk immediately," James said, his usual calm demeanor replaced with visible concern. William looked up from his papers, sensing something was seriously wrong. James had been protecting the royal family for 15 years and rarely showed such anxiety. "What's happened, James?" James closed the door behind him and activated a small device that would prevent any electronic surveillance. "We've intercepted some unusual communications, sir. They mention the princess specifically, and the content is deeply troubling." William's heart rate quickened. His wife Catherine had been receiving more public attention lately due to her new charity work with underprivileged children. "What kind of communications?" "Encrypted messages between unknown parties. Our tech team managed to decode fragments, and they're discussing a plan involving the princess's upcoming visit to the Children's Hospital in Manchester next week." The blood drained from William's face. Catherine had been looking forward to this visit for months. She had personally organized activities and gifts for the young patients. "Show me everything you have." James placed a tablet on William's desk, displaying several decoded message fragments. William read them carefully, his expression growing darker with each line. The messages mentioned specific timing, locations, and references to removing the obstacle and permanent solution. "This can't be real," William whispered. But deep down he knew James wouldn't bring him false information. "Who are these people?" "We're still investigating, but preliminary analysis suggests they're not amateur troublemakers. The encryption they used is military grade, and their knowledge of the princess's security arrangements is concerningly detailed." William stood up and began pacing. His mind raced through possibilities. Who would want to harm Catherine? She was beloved by the public and had no known enemies. Her charity work was purely humanitarian, and she stayed away from controversial political issues. "Have you informed the Metropolitan Police?" William asked. "Not yet, sir. We wanted to brief you first. There's something else that's particularly disturbing." James swiped to another screen. One of the messages mentions an inside source. Someone within the palace or security team is feeding them information. The revelation hit William like a physical blow. He had always trusted the people around them implicitly. The idea that someone they worked with daily could be betraying them was almost incomprehensible. "We need to cancel the Manchester visit immediately," William said, reaching for his phone. "Sir, with respect, that might not be the best approach," James replied carefully. "If we suddenly cancel without explanation, it could tip off whoever is involved that we're onto them. We need to catch them in the act to identify all parties involved." William stared at his security advisor. "You're suggesting we use my wife as bait?" Absolutely not, sir. I'm suggesting we make them think their plan is proceeding while we control every aspect of the situation. We can arrange additional security, change routes, modify timing, and ensure the princess is never actually in danger while we gather evidence." William considered this carefully. His protective instincts wanted to lock Catherine away somewhere safe until the threat was eliminated. But James was right. They needed to identify everyone involved to prevent future attempts. "What's our next step?" William asked. "We need to limit information sharing within the palace. Only essential personnel should know about the princess's actual movements. We'll create false schedules and see who accesses them. Meanwhile, our technical team will continue monitoring the communications to learn more about their timeline." William nodded grimly. "I want hourly updates. And James, absolutely no one else knows about this conversation. Not the princess. Not our staff. No one." "Understood, sir. However, we may need to brief the princess eventually. Her cooperation could be crucial for maintaining the deception." "Not yet," William said firmly. "Catherine is already under enough pressure with her public duties. I won't add this burden until absolutely necessary." James gathered his materials and headed toward the door. "Sir, there's one more thing. The messages suggest this isn't their first operation. They reference previous successful projects, in what appears to be code. After James left, William remained alone in his study, staring out at the gray London sky. His phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. Finished at the gallery. Heading home soon. Love you. William's chest tightened as he read her innocent message. How could he protect her without destroying the trust and openness that made their marriage strong? How could he smile and act normal when someone was plotting against the woman he loved? He walked to the window and watched the tourists gathered outside the palace gates, taking photos and hoping for a glimpse of the royal family. Most were genuine admirers, but now William found himself wondering if any of them had darker intentions. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was his private secretary with updates about the week's schedule. William listened with half his attention while his mind worked through security scenarios. Every public appearance now seemed like a potential threat. Every staff member became a suspect. Sir, did you hear the question about Thursday's engagement? His secretary asked. William refocused. Sorry, please repeat that. The Children's Hospital is requesting a longer visit from the princess. They want to extend it by an hour for additional patient meetings. William's blood ran cold. Was this request legitimate? Or was it part of the plot? Tell them we need to review the schedule. Don't confirm anything yet. After ending the call, William immediately contacted James. They needed to investigate this request immediately. Every new detail could be part of the conspiracy or an innocent coincidence, but they couldn't afford to assume anything. The afternoon passed slowly as William tried to maintain his normal routine while his mind churned with worry. He attended a meeting about environmental initiatives, but found himself studying each aide's face for signs of deception. He reviewed correspondence, but every letter seemed to require additional security screening in his mind. When Catherine returned home that evening, her cheerful demeanor provided both comfort and additional anxiety for William. She excitedly told him about her gallery visit and the promising artists she had met. Her enthusiasm for her work made William's heart ache, knowing that someone wanted to harm this wonderful, caring person. You seem distracted tonight, Catherine observed as they sat down for dinner. Everything all right? Quote. William forced a smile. Just thinking about some security updates James mentioned. Nothing urgent. Catherine nodded, accustomed to William's occasional preoccupation with security matters. Well, don't let it consume your evening. We have so little quiet time together. William reached across the table and took her hand. You're absolutely right. Tell me more about the gallery. As Catherine spoke about the artists and their projects, William made a silent promise. Whatever it took, whoever was involved, he would protect her. The conspiracy against his wife would not succeed. But first, he needed to uncover the full extent of the plot and identify every person involved. The evening passed peacefully, but William barely slept that night. His mind kept returning to the encrypted messages and the terrifying reality that someone close to them was feeding information to potential threats. Tomorrow, the real investigation would begin, and William knew that nothing would ever feel quite the same again. The next morning, William arrived at his office an hour earlier than usual. James was already waiting with a thick folder of overnight intelligence reports. The expression on his security advisor's face told William that the news wasn't good. We've made significant progress, but what we've discovered is more concerning than we initially thought, James began, spreading documents across William's desk. The encrypted communications increased dramatically overnight. They're moving forward with their timeline. Well, William studied the decoded messages, his jaw tightening as he read. The conspirators were discussing specific entry points, timing windows, and what appeared to be a detailed floor plan of Manchester Children's Hospital. How did they get building schematics? William asked, his voice tight with controlled anger. That's the disturbing part, sir. These aren't publicly available documents. Someone with legitimate access provided them. We're looking at hospital administrators, security personnel, and anyone who worked on recent renovations. James pulled out another set of papers. But there's something else. We traced the communication source to 3 different locations in London. 2 are commercial buildings with multiple tenants, but the third is particularly interesting. William looked at the address James highlighted. It was less than 2 miles from Kensington Palace, In an upscale residential area where several palace employees lived, we've been conducting discreet surveillance on all 3 locations. Yesterday evening, we photographed someone entering the residential building who shouldn't have access to sensitive royal scheduling information. James handed William a surveillance photo. William's heart sank as he recognized the face immediately. It was David Thornfield, Catherine's personal assistant. For the past 3 years, David had arranged countless public engagements and had access to detailed scheduling information weeks in advance. "This can't be right," William said, staring at the photo. "David has been completely loyal. Catherine trusts him completely. I know this is difficult, sir, but the evidence is substantial. We've confirmed he accessed the princess's digital calendar 15 times yesterday alone, including sections he shouldn't need for his regular duties." William felt a mixture of betrayal and fury. David had been at family celebrations, had met their children, had been trusted with the most intimate details of their public lives. The violation felt deeply personal. "What's his motivation?" William asked. "We're still investigating, but preliminary financial records show significant gambling debts and recent large cash deposits that don't match his salary. Someone has been paying him substantial amounts." The phone on William's desk rang, interrupting their conversation. It was Catherine's voice, bright and cheerful as always. "Good morning, darling. I'm reviewing the Manchester visit details with David this morning. He's suggested some wonderful additions to the children's activities. I'm so excited about this trip." William's stomach lurched. Catherine was planning the visit with the very person who was betraying her to potential assassins. "That sounds lovely. Just remember not to overextend yourself. Don't worry so much. David takes excellent care of all the scheduling. I trust him completely." After Catherine hung up, William looked at James with grim determination. "We need to move fast. How do we proceed without alerting David, or whoever is controlling him?" "We've prepared a trap, sir. We're going to feed David false information about the princess's Manchester itinerary while maintaining the real schedule through separate channels. If our suspicions are correct, the false information will appear in their communications within hours." James explained the plan in detail. They would tell David that Catherine's arrival time had been moved 2 hours later and that she would be using a different entrance. Meanwhile, the real visit would proceed with enhanced security at the originally planned time and location. "What about Catherine? She needs to know what's happening." "Actually, sir, we recommend keeping the princess unaware for now. Her genuine reactions will help sell the deception. David knows her well enough to detect if she's acting differently." William struggled with this decision. Keeping Catherine in the dark felt wrong, but he understood the necessity. Her safety depended on the authenticity of their normal routine. "There's one more element to consider," James continued. "We believe David isn't the only inside source. The level of detail in their intelligence suggests multiple people are feeding them information." This revelation shook William even more deeply. One traitor was devastating enough, but the idea of a coordinated conspiracy within their inner circle was terrifying. Who else could be involved? "We're investigating everyone with access to the princess's schedule, travel arrangements, and security protocols. That includes her protection officers, drivers, household staff, and even some of your own personnel." William realized that he could trust almost no one around them. Every smile could be hiding betrayal. Every helpful gesture could be part of the conspiracy. James activated his tablet and showed William a communication intercepted just 2 hours earlier. "This message suggests they're planning something for today, not just the Manchester visit. They're discussing preliminary positioning and target confirmation." William's blood ran cold. "They're going to attempt something today? Where is Catherine right now?" "She's at the palace, sir, preparing for a small charity meeting this afternoon. But here's what's particularly concerning. That meeting isn't on any official schedule. Very few people knew about it." William immediately understood the implication. The conspirators had information about Catherine's activities that wasn't widely distributed. Their source was someone very close to her daily routine. "We need to cancel that meeting immediately," William said, reaching for his phone. "Sir, we've already taken precautions. Extra security is in place, and we've changed the meeting location without informing anyone except essential personnel. But we're using this as another test to identify information sources. William paced his office, feeling trapped by the need for secrecy, while wanting to take immediate action to protect his wife. How long before we have enough evidence to arrest everyone involved? Become, hopefully, within 48 hours. But sir, there's something else you should know. The communications suggest this plot extends beyond just the princess. They've mentioned other targets in the royal family. The scope of the conspiracy was expanding before William's eyes. What had started as a threat against Catherine was apparently part of a larger plan against the monarchy itself. We need to brief my father and other family members immediately, William said. We're preparing those briefings now, but we're being extremely careful about information distribution. Until we identify all the inside sources, every conversation is a potential security risk. 1. William's phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. David found a wonderful photographer for the children's event. Everything is coming together perfectly. Reading the message while knowing David's betrayal made William feel physically ill. Catherine's trust and enthusiasm were being manipulated by someone planning to harm her. James, I want constant surveillance on David from this moment forward. I want to know everyone he contacts, everywhere he goes, and every communication he makes. Already in place, sir. We've also prepared alternative personnel to take over his duties if we need to remove him suddenly. William stared out his window at the gardens where Catherine often walked with their children. The peaceful scene belied the danger swirling around them. Somewhere in London, people were planning violence against his family, and someone they trusted was helping them do it. Keep me updated every hour, William told James, and prepare contingency plans for immediate evacuation if necessary. I won't let them hurt her. As James left to coordinate the investigation, William remained at his desk, feeling the weight of responsibility and the isolation of having to carry this burden alone. The next 24 hours would determine whether they could uncover the full conspiracy before it was too late. William barely touched his lunch as James returned with urgent updates. The surveillance on David had revealed far more than they had expected, and the scope of the conspiracy was staggering. Sir, David met with 2 individuals at a cafe in Westminster this morning, James reported, placing new photographs on William's desk. We've identified them as Marcus Reed, a former military explosives expert who was dishonorably discharged 5 years ago, and Elena Volkov, a known organizer for extremist political groups. William studied the photos, memorizing the faces of people who wanted to harm his wife. What did they discuss? Our lip-reading expert analyzed the surveillance footage. They were confirming final details for tomorrow's Manchester operation. David provided them with updated security protocols and confirmed Catherine's travel route. The betrayal cut deeper with each revelation. David hadn't just sold information. He had been actively coordinating with people planning violence against Catherine. There's more, sir. We traced Marcus Reed's recent movements and discovered he purchased materials that could be used to construct explosive devices. We believe they're planning a bombing during the hospital visit. William's hands clenched into fists. The thought of Catherine walking into such a trap was unbearable. We're canceling Manchester immediately. Sir, we've discovered something that changes everything. Elena Volkov has connections to a larger network that's been planning attacks on multiple European royal families. This isn't just about the princess. It's part of a coordinated campaign. James handed William a thick intelligence report. French and Belgian authorities have been tracking similar conspiracies. 3 attempts have been made in the past year, and 2 were successful in disrupting major royal events. William read through the report with growing alarm. The network was sophisticated, well-funded, and had successfully penetrated security around other royal families. They weren't dealing with amateur terrorists. These were professional conspirators with international connections. Who's funding this operation? William asked. We're still investigating, but early evidence points to a combination of political extremists and foreign interests who benefit from destabilizing European monarchies. The payments to David came from an account linked to shell companies in 3 different countries. William's phone rang. It was Catherine, and her voice carried an unusual note of concern. William, something strange happened at my charity meeting. David wasn't there, which is very unusual, and I noticed several people I didn't recognize lurking around the building. My protection officer seemed nervous about something. William's heart raced. Were they moving their timeline forward? Where are you now? Heading back to the palace. But William, I have a terrible feeling something's wrong. David hasn't answered his phone all afternoon, and Margaret from the hospital called to confirm some details about tomorrow that didn't match what David told me. William realized that Catherine's instincts were picking up on the deception and danger around her. He had to make a decision about how much to tell her. Catherine, I need you to return to the palace immediately and wait for me in the private quarters. Don't discuss tomorrow's trip with anyone. And don't leave the palace until I speak with you. William, you're scaring me. What's happening? I'll explain everything when I see you. Just please do exactly what I've asked. After hanging up, William turned to James. We need to end this now. Catherine's getting suspicious, and they may be accelerating their timeline. Agreed, sir. We're ready to move. We have enough evidence to arrest David, Marcus Reed, and Elena Volkov. We've also identified 3 other palace employees who were feeding them information. William was stunned. 3 others? Who? One of the kitchen staff who had access to meal schedules, a maintenance worker who provided building layouts, and most shocking of all, Sarah Collins from the press office, who was feeding them details about media coverage plans. Sarah had worked for the royal family for 8 years and had attended numerous family functions. The extent of the infiltration was almost incomprehensible. How long has this been going on? Based on financial records and communication patterns, we believe the recruitment began nearly 2 years ago. They've been patient, building their network slowly, and gathering intelligence for a major operation. William felt sick thinking about how long his family had been under surveillance by people they trusted. What's the arrest plan? Coordinated raids in 30 minutes. We'll take all suspects simultaneously to prevent them from warning each other. The explosive materials will be secured, and we'll shut down their entire communication network. I want to be present when you arrest David, William said firmly. James looked uncomfortable. Sir, that's not advisable. It could compromise your security and interfere with the investigation. James, this man betrayed my wife's trust and put her life in danger. I need to look him in the eye when he's arrested. Before James could respond, an urgent message came through on his secure phone. His face went pale as he read it. Sir, we have an immediate problem. David just left his apartment with a large bag and is heading toward central London. We think he may be trying to execute a backup plan. William stood up quickly. Where's Catherine now? Her protection detail confirmed she's back at the palace. But sir, David has access codes to most areas of the building. If he's going to make a desperate move. William was already moving toward the door. Lock down the palace immediately, full security protocol, and arrest David the moment your teams can reach him. As they rushed through the palace corridors, William's mind raced with possibilities. David knew Catherine's routines, her favorite rooms, her daily schedule. If he was planning something desperate, he would know exactly where to find her. They reached the private quarters to find Catherine's protection officer stationed outside, looking alert but not alarmed. The princess is inside, sir. She arrived 20 minutes ago and asked not to be disturbed until you arrived. William knocked gently on the door. Catherine, it's me. May I come in? Of course, she called back. William entered to find Catherine sitting by the window, her expression serious and worried. William, I know something terrible is happening. Please tell me the truth. William sat beside her and took her hands. There's been a plot against you. David and several others have been feeding information to people who want to hurt you. We've discovered it and we're arresting them now, but I needed to make sure you were safe first. Catherine's face went through a range of emotions. Shock, betrayal, fear, and finally determination. David? But he's been so helpful, so trustworthy. I can't believe. I know it's hard to accept, but the evidence is overwhelming. He's been working with this group for nearly 2 years. Catherine was quiet for a moment, processing the information. The Manchester visit was going to be an attack. We've prevented it, but we needed to catch them in the act to identify everyone involved. How many people were betraying us? William hesitated. then decided she deserved the complete truth. At least 5 that we know of. People we trusted. People who had access to our private lives. Catherine stood and walked to the window, looking out at the gardens where their children often played. How do we ever trust anyone again? Before William could answer, James knocked urgently on the door. Sir, we need you immediately. David has been arrested, but he made some statements during the arrest that require your attention. William looked at Catherine, not wanting to leave her alone. Come with me, he said. You deserve to hear this directly. They followed James to a secure communication room where they could monitor the arrest operations. On one screen, they could see David in custody, looking defiant rather than remorseful. He claims there are additional plots we haven't discovered yet, James reported. He says the Manchester plan was just the beginning, and that arresting him won't stop what's coming. William felt a chill as he realized this conspiracy might be even larger than they had uncovered. What else did he say? He mentioned something about the summer initiative and claimed that the princess wasn't the primary target. She was supposed to be eliminated to clear the way for something bigger. Catherine gripped William's arm tightly. What could be bigger than an attack on the succession itself? William said grimly, understanding the implication. They weren't just trying to hurt you. They were trying to destabilize the entire monarchy. Over the next several hours, as interrogations continued and more evidence was analyzed, the full scope of the conspiracy became clear. The network had been planning a series of attacks designed to create a constitutional crisis and undermine public confidence in the royal family. The Manchester bombing was intended to be the first in a sequence of increasingly bold attacks that would culminate in something even more devastating during the summer months, when the royal family's schedule included several major public events. We've prevented immediate danger, James summarized as evening approached. But this investigation is far from over. The international connections suggest we're dealing with a threat that extends well beyond what we've uncovered so far. William looked at Catherine, who had listened to everything with remarkable composure. Are you ready for what this means? Enhanced security? Restricted movements? Constant vigilance? Catherine met his gaze with steel in her eyes. If people think they can frighten us into hiding, they're mistaken. We'll take every reasonable precaution, but we won't let them win by changing who we are or abandoning our duties. William squeezed her hand, feeling both pride and renewed worry. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the larger conspiracy remained active somewhere in the shadows. Their fight to protect both their family and the institution they represented was far from over. As they prepared for what would undoubtedly be a long investigation and trial, William realized that this experience had changed them fundamentally. The innocence and trust that had characterized their previous approach to royal duties were gone forever, replaced by a harder wisdom about the dangers that surrounded their positions. But it had also reinforced something equally important: their commitment to each other and to the responsibilities they had inherited. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger and more vigilant than before.